From Rectangle Health, this is the Modern Practice Podcast, a show that provides you with fresh perspectives and practical advice from industry experts in the ever-changing world of healthcare technology. Every episode, we tackle a timely topic to help you stay current and simplify the business side of healthcare. Without further ado,
hello, everybody, and welcome back to the Modern Practice Podcast. Today, we're diving into dental practice marketing and how you can attract and retain patients with your website. In the digital-first world we live in, a well-built, powerful website is essential to growing as a business. And joining us in our discussion today is CEO and founder of Great Dental Websites, Jeff Gladnick. Jeff, thanks for taking the time. Appreciate you being here.
Oh, thanks, Gary. Thank you for having me.
My pleasure. So I want to start by giving our dental audience not familiar with Great Dental Websites an opportunity to learn more about your company. Can you talk to me about how it came to be, what triggered or inspired you to found the company?
Yeah, my background was in software engineering and particularly building content management systems, so like web publishing software. I was doing that in San Francisco for a while, and my dad, who's a dentist, needed a new website. And so I was trying to help him find bids and try to find a good company. And the quotes he kept getting back were really expensive, and they weren't like good options anyway. So after enough of those, I got frustrated, and I was like, I'll just do this for you. And so I have 8 dentists in my family, and very quickly the word got around to the uncles and the aunts, and they wanted in on this free website deal. So I ended up making a content management system just for dentists. The whole idea was I don't want to do this, 8 times. So I'm just going to build a piece of software that'll kind of reconfigured for each practice. And then I'll just have to do it once. I had learned this technology at work. And that was kind of the first iteration of Great Dental Websites. Halfway through the project, they started referring like colleagues who weren't related to me. And by the time I finished it, like 6 months later and launched it, probably had like 24 clients. That kept on for a few years. This was like a side project until I think it was like one day at work, I got like 4 calls from new customers and I couldn't take any of them. So I was in meetings. And I was like, well, I might actually have a business here. And I kind of looked at the numbers and we figured out a way to make it work. I quit my job and the company kind of left the ground.
It's an awesome story there, Jeff. And we all know that feeling when family comes in to ask for help, blows up really quickly.
Well, I've been going to him for years to get, free dental work. So it's fair trade, I guess.
One hand washes the other.
Yeah, exactly.
So Jeff, as you know, there's so many website building applications out there, too many to name, but there are gaps, shortcomings, flaws in that quick build website platform. Did that play a role in why Great Dental Websites came to be as well? And what were some of those shortcomings and flaws that you had identified early on?
Yeah, there's a couple different options that dentists have, and most dentists will get an open source or off the shelf content management system like WordPress, which is nothing wrong with WordPress. It's a fine platform. The problem is it's not what we would call multi-tenant. So there's no kind of like central core that gets updated as Google changes the rules and requirements that your software can kind of subscribe to. So you publish it, let's say you hire a company that builds something for you in WordPress and they do everything perfectly. The site is just exactly at the state of the art, exactly the way it needs to be, and they launch and everything is great. Well, each week that goes by, there's going to be some change. Some are bigger than others. It might be 6 months before anything of substance happens, or it might be the very next day where Google just decides, for example, like several years ago, they said, we don't want you to have those separate mobile websites. We all remember those. Everybody had like a separate mobile website, and it was rectanglehealth.com or rectanglehealth.mobi or something like that. And it was like this kind of slim down thing for mobile devices. Google just decided one day that's over. You need to have a responsive website. So throw out your mobile website, whatever investment you made in that, it's junk. And you need to rebuild your whole website to work on any device. When we got that news, we just updated our platform, and that update was given to all of our customers for free. There's been other instances like that happen almost every month, where we just update the core software. We're basically a subscription software. You can think of it as like dental websites as a service, and we're just constantly trying to keep our sites and our client sites at the state of the art. So you can certainly do this with WordPress, but you're going to have a very good relationship with your developer, and it's going to be expensive because every time one of these changes happens, you're going to decide, I'm not going to do that, and I'm going to suffer whatever penalty, high or low, that Google places on the website, or I'm going to get out my checkbook and pay for it every single time. And after a while, the total cost of ownership of the site starts to go through the roof if you're doing it this way. But most people don't do that. Instead, they just sacrifice quality. And when the site launches, quality is really high, and then it just starts going down, 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 like a stock ticker, until finally it's so bad that you wake up one day and you say, this whole site needs to be thrown out and we have to start completely from scratch. And then we have to spend thousands or maybe even more than $10,000 to rebuild the website. And then we do the whole thing all over again 5 years from then. And this is the cycle that most dentists go through. And you end up paying more money and getting a lower average quality for your website and worse average performance on Google over time. And this was the cycle that we wanted to break. We wanted to keep the cost low. We can kind of share the cost amongst our about 950 or so dental practices that use our platform. And we can keep the quality high all the time. So that is the customer that we're trying to serve. And that's the problem we're trying to fix.
Thanks so much for that, Jeff. Dentists are not marketers. Some of them might be,
some of them are great.
Most of them, I would say, are just primarily focused on making healthy smiles and keeping their patients happy and healthy in that sense. And you touched on this a little bit. It's hard to have that trust between your developer and yourself, or to know yourself that these changes in Google are happening, that these design elements that need to be incorporated or functionality elements need to be incorporated into a site to keep it modern. And your team consists of multiple players, from the user experience specialist to the user interface specialist to the search engine optimization specialist, design, copywriting, marketing coaches, and IT. Can you sort of walk me through the process of working with your team and how key players come into the mix at different stages?
Yeah, for most clients, they'll talk to somebody from sales who wants to understand what their needs are, and we sometimes recommend a client not work with us. There's probably 5 or 10% of the market that's a bad fit for us for one reason or another. But most dental practices are great fits. So once they progress through sales, they'll be assigned a project manager, and that's the person who's in charge of collecting all their information and kind of shepherding this project all the way to launch. They'll coordinate with a copywriter who will interview them and really get to know them, because we want the copy to really sound like them. That's usually a big mistake that dentists make. They'll just hire a company that uses the same copywriting for everybody, and they'll change, Dr. Smith to Dr. Jones and then call it a day. But people have very different philosophies about how they practice dentistry. Some people have this very holistic approach. They want to remove mercury amalgams. We've even have a few clients who don't recommend fluoridated toothpaste or removing fluoride from the water. We have other dentists who completely disagree with this. And these are clinical decisions that are made by the dentist. This is not, we're not qualified to make these decisions. And then other people have different approaches. There's 8 different types of Zoom core whitening products. Everybody's got different reasons for picking their type of implant. They may use a CEREC machine, or they may have a really high-end lab that they like. And we want to have the copywriting really express to the patient, what this dentist is all about. So it'll resonate with the patient, and when they come in, they're already a great fit. And the worst thing that can happen is you have this, very humorous writing, and then it's very, colloquial and jovial. And then the patient comes in, the dentist is very, buttoned down, tie, down to business. And they're like, well, who is this? This is not what I thought I was getting. So we really want to use media and the copywriting to communicate with the patients as much as we can. And we sometimes get feedback from practices where a patient will come in, and it surprises us sometimes. They'll tell us, we read every word on your site. Really? You spent hours on it? They did. So some people are really nervous about going to the dentist, and they really want to get to know them. And that's what the copywriting team will bring out. The UI team and graphic design, we want the design to reflect the practice and the branding. But the UI team spends tons of time A/B testing, various landing pages. We really want to have, the landing page for dental implants convert somebody who's thinking about it. And we've done psychological testing with users and like eye tracking with random people that we hire to try to improve conversions by like 2 or 3%. And then when we find out something that works, we push that update to everybody's landing page. We're kind of using this process of UI design to push everything together. The marketing team kind of has a veto over all new design elements. So somebody from the SEO team is sitting in on these product design meetings and saying, no, we can't do that. That's going to hurt our performance on Google. And sometimes engineering rolls their eyes and is frustrated, but that really drives a lot of the decisions. Engineering plays a part in this too. They're constantly trying to speed up the sites. We have this huge distributed system of like caching on various Amazon servers spread around the country and the world. A bunch of our clients are from Australia, so we have to cover kind of because they're there too, and Canada as well. So we're constantly trying to improve the speed too. The slower site loads, the more likely somebody is to leave, and the lower Google scores it. Speed is a factor for ranking sites. So everybody kind of plays a role in putting all this together to give a fantastic experience to the user and to Google's search bot too.
Yeah, and the website is ultimately it's a tool to convert and capture business, depending on that specialty, depending on their focus and the core audience that dental practice wants to attract new business. What are some of the best practices your team implements to make the website effective in capturing and converting that business outside of honing in on the specialty?
Well, I mean, there's a couple things. Like a lot of it is supporting media and content. So we'll ask the dentist, because whenever we bring on a client, we really want the dentist to become a partner in the marketing, and they don't need to really think about the strategy. They can do that as much as they want to, and we welcome their advice. But what we need them to do is produce some content. So we want to have a video of the dentist explaining the service or procedure in like 30 to 60 seconds. Like you walked up to the guy or gal on the street and you asked them like, well, what exactly is Invisalign? How's that different from normal braces? What would you say to a patient? We'll give them a prompt like this. Because we want their personality to come through. That'll help inspire confidence for people who have a dental phobia. We also want them to take pictures of their work, their before and after cases. And a lot of dentists are perfectionists. That's kind of the hardest thing to break there is, they're good enough. Those pictures you sent, go get some better ones, but those are already look great. Dentists are obsessed with making it look perfect. But that shows a patient, hey, I have that problem in the before. That's what my mouth looks like now. And I would be very happy if I ended up with the after picture. So it kind of shows proof that they can do the work. We also like them to get video testimonials. That's more social proof that other people like them. So, and oftentimes the patients will surprise you and kind of speak to a fear or a concern or a benefit that you hadn't initially considered as a marketer. And then that works its way into the copywriting or the FAQs or something the dentist will say to reinforce it. So if we can get all that content and put it together on a page, then we have a really effective landing page that's answering all of the objections that a patient might internally hold in order to move forward with booking that procedure.
Yeah, but it's not set it and forget it, right? How often are you reaching out and requesting some new content, whether it be video, written piece, reviews, things like that?
Oh, we will attempt to politely harass our customers every month. We're like, nagging personal trainers, trying to make sure that your website and your marketing is in the best shape it possibly can be. It's really up to the practice owner how much they want to engage with us on that. Most of our clients, I'm glad, do. I think it's like an 85% compliance rate, the way we track this internally. But some clients are really busy because they have a lot of patients, so that's a good excuse. I understand that's the proper way to focus on it, but when they have time, they'll come back to it and we'll pick up where we left off. But yeah, we do want them to kind of be thinking about this, have a review strategy in place, and other people in the practice can participate in this. So some dentists kind of outsource all this work entirely to their team. So somebody else is taking the before and after cases. Somebody's asking for video testimonials. They might record the videos once at the beginning, but then they leave that day-to-day stuff to the team. Somebody at the front desk asked for online reviews. So, and they, sometimes they'll give away like Starbucks cards or something to incentivize their staff to do this. And then as long as you get this smooth running machine going on, then the marketing is just constantly refreshed and updated and added to, because people will look at the recency or how recent reviews are too. My wife will not book an Airbnb unless there's reviews from like the last 3 months that confirm that like the place is clean and there's not, mold and other serious problems in there. And people do the same thing looking at dentists. So if you just have lots of reviews, but they're all from like 5 years ago, that's not good enough. People will look and see, well, what's going on lately.
So shifting gears here a little bit, Jeff, the practice has the website built, and now it's time to scale business. And as you touched on, reviews play a key part in a decision maker. Just like your wife, myself, any business I choose to work with, I'm looking at those reviews, the quality of the reviews and the recency of them. But I want to talk more along the lines of the cash flow and revenue. Can you talk to me a little bit about how Great Dental Websites and Rectangle Health partnered up and what value that partnership brings to your clients?
Yeah, I mean, we like one thing that consistently comes up is like, well, how do I pay for this? Like financing the procedure, paying for a bill, and we would just constantly get questions from clients who are like, do you guys have any service to add like bill pay to our website? And I think that was kind of the first spark of like, well, we need some kind of partner for financial services and payments. And when we started looking around and eventually found Rectangle, and you guys had a good reputation. We had some customers, I think, that were already using you who were happy. You guys would meet the needs of our customers, and it was very easy to integrate into our software. So yeah, that was a natural partnership. It fulfilled a need that our customers had, and I think we've gotten nothing but positive feedback so far.
Yeah, and as a website developer, the owner of the company, CEO, what kind of impact does that payment link, let's say, on a site have on the patient experience and also on the staff? Because when we look at modern day retail experiences, we convert on Amazon every day, we convert on Netflix every day. We're making payments digitally in most of our buying experience. What would you say is the importance of that on a dental website?
Yeah, I mean, just having easy payments, like it makes such a difference in your cash flow. And I don't have any staff. This isn't my primary business. You guys can probably speak better to this, but I can tell a story that just happened to me this past month. I owed a bill to one of our vendors. They sent it to me in, I think, February. I got it on my phone, and I was like, oh, let me go take care of this now. But like they needed me to like set up an account, or like it was like some clunky thing that I had to do to pay the bill online. I'm like, I'll deal with this later, and then I forgot. And so they politely reminded me like earlier this week, and like, hey, I didn't give you a bill, and I'm like, yeah, I'm pretty sure I paid this back on the 1st of March. I have a reminder to my accountant that like sending them, hey, I just paid this. This is what it's for. So when the bookkeeper classified it, and they're like, no, and then I had to like look through my credit card records and finally confirm, no, I actually have forgot to pay this. And so I finally paid it again last week. But and then they're fine. We've had a relationship with this vendor for years, so they weren't upset. It was just a mistake. But like little things like this can happen, and then the patient moves, or they decide they're unhappy, or they switch dentists, and then you never hear from them again. And so you really have to give your patients options for paying as quickly and seamlessly as possible. Like this should be the easiest, interaction with the practice they have, because honestly, it's the most painful. Perhaps the second most painful, depending on the procedure. But you don't want to have the payment part be a pain in the neck.
Yeah, absolutely. And from our end, we hear it all the time. It's not only on the digital side, but many practices still mailing out paper statements and waiting for that payment to come inbound from the patient. It gets set aside with a bunch of mail and forgotten about, especially if it lands in on a Friday. You got the weekend coming in. So the last thing you want to do is pay bills over the weekend. So we do hear that.
The other thing, I think the other thing that has to be considered, some people will prefer, checks because there's no transaction fee, but there is. You're just paying somebody differently. Your staff has to sit there and cash it. Like that takes a minute. Sometimes it gets rejected by the bank. Like, oh, we can't read the signature, or like, the amount seems different. And like, we've all had that experience trying to digitally like cash the check with your phone. You got to send it back like 5 times. My God. And then it ends up wasting like 40 minutes to cash a check for $70. And then you still have to get the money and like properly, put it in the right account, in the accounting software, and like work it into the bill. And I think you guys, that was the other reason that we really liked Rectangle Health. I think you guys had some kind of bridging tool that would help, automate that. And like, so there's still a cost to processing checks that, we have to bear, and the practice will have to bear too. It just doesn't seem like it because you don't get an itemized bill for it, but you're still paying that. It's just, taking away from the time that your front desk could have made a great patient testimonial video for you.
Absolutely. And last question here, Jeff, before I let you go. I'm a dental practice looking for a brand new modern website, or I need an overhaul. What do I need to do to prepare before working with you and your team to get that amazing output?
Yeah, and this would be helpful for working with any company. But what we love to see is if a practice has come to us, and I mean, this is the wish list and the ideal. But if they already have like all their before and after cases that they're really proud of, if they have a couple for every single service, they're all neatly organized in folders. There might be a little description of each before and after case, because some people just send us pictures. We don't know what happened. We can see the teeth got less yellow, but like there's been a bunch of teeth moving around. Like, is that an implant? Did they have orthodontic work? What's going on? So, we want to know a little bit about them. And it's also nice to tell a story about like, well, what motivated, like, this is Gary, he was unhappy with his smile. He'd been drinking coffee for a long time, and then he just woke up one day and decided, I really don't like these yellow teeth. I'm sorry, I'm picking on you, but, and then he decided, I'm going to do something about it today. And so he came in, he asked Dr. Smith for options and gave him these whatever, Zoom. And Gary couldn't be happier with his white teeth, and his wife likes it too, or whatever. These little things like help tell a story and help let people at home kind of resonate with, oh, that actually sounds a little bit like me. Same thing with patient testimonial videos. If you've recorded a couple of those, even on an iPhone, that's fine. If you've thought about the various services that you're offering, and you just write like 5 or 6 bullet points about like, this is our approach, to doing implants. We use a CEREC machine. This technology is quick and fast. We have lots of experience, and the quality is really good. And the dentist has done tons of continuing education. And he's really good at it. Like those 5 or 6 bullet points really help the copywriting team come up with something unique that's tailored to the practice. So kind of getting your content and your media organized in advance will make the project go faster. It'll improve the quality. You'll be much happier with the result. It'll take less of your time overall. So if you're thinking about updating your website, and you can do that at the same time, like we have clients that start working on that like the day they reach out to us, because we tell them on the first call, this will be great if you have this. It'll make the project better. But the sooner you do that, the better.
Thank you for that, Jeff. And I think it's that storytelling approach for anybody starting. If a dental practice asks, well, what kind of content do I produce? Where do I start? Tell that story of the before and after, how you're helping, what the outcomes were. That's really positive and strong there. For our listeners tuning in today, if you're looking to revamp your existing website or have a new client converting one built from the ground up to cater to your practice's unique offerings, I encourage you all to visit www.greatdentalwebsites.com. I will have that link in the episode description below, as well as a link to Rectangle Health's online payment solutions page to learn how you can reduce accounts receivable and make it simple for patients to pay for care quickly. Jeff, thank you for the laughs. Thank you for taking the time. I love learning from you, and hopefully we can get you back on the show again real soon.
Well, thanks for having me on, Gary. It was a pleasure. Hope I was helpful.
My pleasure. One final note for our audience. We've got some great episodes lined up in the upcoming days and weeks, so be sure to subscribe and leave your comments and feedback. We always appreciate it. Thanks for tuning in. Till next time, everybody.
Thank you for listening to the Modern Practice Podcast. If you enjoyed today's conversation, subscribe on Apple Podcasts, Google Play, Spotify, or SoundCloud for new episodes. And follow Rectangle Health on social media for more helpful information, news, and event details. Thanks for tuning in.